I guess, yeah, I should have let you introduce yourself more, but would you like to introduce yourself, your background, what you do, and kind
Yeah,
of why
sure.
you're here?
Yeah. So it's funny. I actually like the entire Remix team is pretty much a bunch of engineers that were like really into front end stuff, and then recently, with the trend with being able to deploy so easily with servers, we started picking up server side rendering and things like that. And so like Ryan and Michael and like Mark are all like super well known in the front end space. I came at it completely differently. I was always really into back end. I was actually working in machine learning before this, and doing a bunch of back end server stuff. And I got just like jammed into the front end team and had to figure things out. Turns out front end's really hard because you have to run things on someone's outdated phone from like 10 years ago and not a supercomputer. So there's challenges there. So like ML was more like math challengey, but like I feel like front end is actually really engineering challenge. So I'm enjoying that. And yeah, I've been with the Remix team for like 2 years. If you're not aware, Remix got acquired in August by Shopify, so now we're part of Shopify. But yeah, we're building out Remix, and I can maybe just show that. So yeah, here's Remix, Remix docs, and actually I guess, oh, we have a showcase now. That's cool. I just wanted even to show the homepage. There we go. Yeah, so web app framework that we built out based on React, and the idea is like all the annoying parts of React that most people run into with like use effect and use state and all that. Most of that's trying to get server data and wiring it up and then sending data back to the server. And the idea of Remix is that you do that through loaders and actions, and it keeps your code nice and tidy, and it makes it so that your component can just assume it has the data it needs most of the time. So yeah, that's mostly what we do. And I work mostly on the compiler side of that and on the type system. So yeah, OCaml's been really fun because, as someone who's really into compilers and type systems, OCaml's after my own heart. Yeah, it's pretty nice so far.
So I know when we first met at the conference, we were talking about you had been working through building a compiler or interpreter, and you had mentioned
Hmm.
you might look into giving that a shot with OCaml. Did you end up trying that?
Not yet, just because I wanted to like just understand, get like, you know, ask for where the grocery store and the bathroom are fluency in OCaml before I started doing something like this.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah. But this is the thing I'm trying to do. Super nice book. These illustrations are also like immaculate, and he's like this. The author has like made them by hand, and it's for free if you go down to web. So, really nice. Highly recommend. And yeah, I was writing this in TypeScript originally, just because why not? And then that was annoying because error handling and no pattern matching. So I chose Rust. And yeah, turns out Rust's really annoying because I didn't want to learn all the edge cases around the garbage collector or the lack of a garbage collector with the borrow checker. So kind of gave up on it. And then yeah, fate intervened, and I met Dylan at the conference, and he was like, "Yo, you should drink the OCaml Kool-Aid." And so far, loving it.
Awesome. So what have you played around with OCaml so far?
Yeah. So okay, don't judge me.
No
But
judgment,
I
judgment-free
opted
zone.
out of setting up NeoVim because I was like, okay, I just need to get something running, and then I'll set up NeoVim. So I went into VS Code, which I know is like a heathen thing to do. Um, but yeah, I've actually started doing the advent of code stuff in here, and it took me a super long time to get like just Dune and opam and all that stuff sorted out. And I'm not
Yeah.
even sure if I have it set up in a sane way. So that's something I kind of wanted your feedback on.
At a
And
cursory glance,
yeah.
this looks pretty on point. But yeah, especially for people coming from the TypeScript and JavaScript world, Dune and OPAM can be pretty confusing. I know it really confused me at first, especially
Hmm.
because Dune's like configuration language is like Lisp or like a S expressions.
Hmm.
So that's very different than like a package JSON. And
Hmm. Hmm.
also in the Node world, we're not really used to having like two separate tools. Well, I guess we have a bunch of tools, right? We have our compilers for different languages and Webpack and all that, but that's normally hidden behind like npm scripts and stuff. So like we're used to just like interacting with all our tooling through PNPM, NPM, bun, whatever it is. So having like the concept of a build tool and a package manager is it kind of caught me off guard and like made me change my thinking up front.
Yeah.
That being said, the OCaml.org team is working over the next 6 months to a year, I'd say, on integrating Dune and OPAM more directly. There's some integration now, which we'll go over, but they're working to get that experience to feel more like, cargo in the Rust world, or, just kind of a more modern tooling workflow. Yeah, so I'm thinking we potentially kind of start from scratch and just start in a completely new repo, and we can go from there. Like I said, it looks like you kind of nailed it down. Actually, I'm curious if there was anything in particular when you were getting started around Dune and OPAM which caught you up.
Yeah, totally. I have my notes here of all the things that were confusing to me or that I didn't expect. I think the main thing was like, even just knowing that Dune and OPAM were a thing and that they aren't built in, and like I think really the thing that I'm not used to coming from TypeScript is just like I've had to not deal with a build system in so long that I thought like, oh, like I don't know, I just kind of intuited that Dune was like the package manager and not the build system. And so I was just like, okay, cool. Oh, what's this OPAM thing? So I think honestly they do a pretty good job of talking about it here in your first OCaml program. I think the thing that kind of tripped me up was I was playing around in the playground, which is super nice, but obviously this doesn't have like any of the setup for the project. And I wanted just to like see, like I wanted to like right click somewhere and open a link and have it open to like the repo where this is like, like a little example repo that actually shows the project setup. That's kind of what I was looking for. I didn't even think to like look for it in here. Right.
Like
I think the other thing too is,
like I think I see where you're going. Like I'm thinking of like a tool like StackBlitz or Code Sandbox, where you can kind of see like your file tree on the left and open up different pieces. That's really interesting. I'll have to float that feedback to Sabine and her team.
And I think the main thing too is like even just knowing that like I said, it's like you can see it here. They're mentioning Dune. And that's awesome. Like now I know it's kind of a blessed sanctioned thing. It's like maybe not the built-in one yet, but it's what most people use. But I didn't even go into here. I was still stuck. Like I was looking for that information like here, like in installing. Like they talk about OPAM, so that's good. But yeah, I don't think they mentioned Dune here either. I guess I don't know. Maybe I just need to read the docs more. I feel like I get so mad when our users don't read the docs, but maybe I'm doing the same thing. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of the first thing that I think tripped me up. And then right after that, I went into the configure editor stuff. And yeah, I like kind of looked at this, but like there's so many ways to do Vim, and this is just like general stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm not even going to bite that off right now. The other thing that tripped me up was OCaml format. So I went and created. I think I deleted it because I ended up not liking how it formatted things. So maybe we can talk about that. But like,
absolutely,
I think it's like you can do like .ocaml format, and now it's gonna format things. But I didn't like the way it formatted things, and I knew that there was like a concept of profiles or like defaults or something.
Yep.
And it took me a super long time to even figure out that this was the magic thing I had to type in. Because I was like, is it Jane Street like that? Is it like I couldn't find this piece of text anywhere.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it should go in here.
That's also really good feedback.
Yeah. And I don't know. I know that Dune and core and base and the formatting stuff from Jane Street has its own docs, but like I didn't know that they'd had their own docs for a while.
Right.
So
it feels
I didn't even know to go look there. Yeah.
It feels like there should potentially be a section on OCaml.org about configuring OCaml format, or making the like man page for OCaml format itself better.
And I think also just like a section of like, here's what we recommend. Like, I want like prescriptive, like I'm willing to like follow for a while before I make my own decisions. I want to just like dip my toes in first. So like, tell me like what you recommend. Let me
Yep.
play around with that, and then the things I don't like, I'll go investigate. It feels like right now, it's like, oh, it's not officially part of OCaml core, so we're not going to document it. Which that makes sense too. But then I'm left to make all those decisions myself when I'm trying to grapple with like the language and the package manager and the build system, and
Yep.
now like this stuff. So it's a lot for kind of starting out, which isn't unique to OCaml. A ton of languages have this problem. I just think OCaml is well suited to, because the language is so nice, you don't have to convince me there. So
Yeah, this is great feedback. In fact, I might even take a shot at writing some docs based on that. Especially, I think we need better information on how to configure NeoVim. If we have time at the end of the stream, I can help you get through that because I know we both use NeoVim. Cool. Yeah. I guess.
Should we just dive into it? I'm sure things will come back up as we like do it.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So to get started, we're going to run Dune init project and then give it a name.
And I can just do proj, I think, right?
Yeah. 1 second. Let me.
So let's just do on Twitch. All right.
Cool. So we're going to stay in the CLI for now, or you can open your terminal in wherever you want to work in your terminal. So the next best thing, or the things I like to do when I spin up a new OCaml project with Dune, is I'll enter the directory and I will create a new switch. Do you understand what a switch is at this point?
Yeah, I did a lot of Python stuff for my old job, so this feels familiar.
So for those who are watching who don't know what a switch is and why we want to kind of set that up from the get-go, as we've already alluded to, we have these two tools that we have to use in the OCaml ecosystem. We have Dune, which is our build tool. It essentially pulls in all our source files and compiles it down to binary or bytecode if you want, or in the case of Melange, JavaScript. And then we have OPAM. OPAM is our package manager. So this is going to be like our NPM install that goes out, finds our packages, brings them down. So there is some initial integration between the two tools. Whoa, that was so loud. Let me turn that down. I should probably turn off alerts. Sorry if that was super loud, everyone. Hopefully that's a little bit better next time that happens. Wasn't loud on stream? Okay, just in my ears. I can deal with that.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Perfect. So if you want to open up your Dune project file first. Sorry, I know I just told you to go back to the terminal. So if we look in here, you'll see that third line down, generate OPAM files true. So this is like the first piece of integration that Dune has with OPAM. And this is basically going to let you install. This is going to let you update your OPAM file through Dune. So theoretically, you should never really have to touch your OPAM file. So if you see down there on that line that says depends, OCaml and Dune, these are your actual project dependencies. So if you wanted to bring in a new package in here, you could just add a new one there, and then you could do like OPAM or Dune build, and it will regenerate the OPAM file. So if you look at your OPAM file right now.
Oh, that's just this one, the project name.
Yep. So this is going to be like your package JSON, right? And you can see up at the top, this file is generated by Dune, edit Dune project instead. So this entire file will get generated for you. 1 second here. So as you can see, it brought in core there. You added it to your Dune project. It goes there. So that's kind of the current relationship between Dune and OPAM. So now let's jump back to actually making our switch. In OPAM, a switch is essentially like our node modules folder. That's where opam is going to install all our packages. And you can have like a global switch or a default switch on your system that a bunch of projects share. But I have the preference of making a switch per project. And switches, unlike node modules, are tied to a specific compiler version. So yeah, you have this opam switch list here. You can see you have a couple other switches on your system, and they're all tied to OCaml 5.1.0. Sunlight is messing with my... Okay, let me try to fix Sunlight real quick. If you want to... This will just take a second.
Yeah, I think with switches, like, it makes sense to me. Like with NPM, you have to do the -g flag to make things global. So you have to kind of opt into global, and by default things are local. And this is more like Python, where like the environments are global by default, and you have to do something to make them local. So that makes sense to me. I did have a couple questions about opam switch, which was like, is there a convention on what to name them? I realized I could just do create dot, and it would like do something and work correctly. But I know I can put like something in here if I want. So I wasn't sure.
I generally use the create dot, and that will just use the directory path. I mean, you could name it your project. So I generally do that, and I think this will end up bringing in... Oh, switch invariant. That's a really early version of OCaml. Press no quick. And we're going to install using OCaml 5.1.0. So if you do opam switch create dot and then OCaml, here I'll copy the command to chat. Probably the easiest way. So I think by default it installs the LTS version of OCaml, and I believe the team tries to release a new LTS every 6 months. There's already... Okay, yeah. So you can just do opam switch remove dot.
Okay, is this what I'm looking at? Underscore opam?
Yeah, yep.
Is that what that is? Opam switch remove?
Yep, and then just dot.
Dot, okay. Nice. And then, yeah, let's go copy that again. Cool.
So the deps only is also kind of a thing that tricked me up at first. If you don't do the deps only flag, it's going to try to like install your own project, I believe, as a dependency. In fact, I don't even really know how that works. I just like know at this point I always basically want -- deps only.
Okay. Is that maybe for like a monorepo sort of situation where I have like packages I might be publishing, but I want to like locally use them for another thing? Or
you can also, as Leo said, doing -- deps only is basically like running npm install. I'm assuming that if you exclude that flag and it builds your project, it might be for the cases where you're building like a library or an executable that you're going to publish or something like that. I've never actually done that, but...
That was something else actually that tripped me up, was like, we just built this with proj, which it took me a while to realize it defaults to building an executable style project. And because I saw lib and I was like, oh, like it's building, like bin is going to be where my executable is, but maybe lib is like where my publishable to opam like packages. And I didn't realize that this was just like, oh, where you put the shared stuff like for your bin.
Are you familiar with Go at all?
I played a ton with it, but like, man, that was like 10 years ago. Yeah, okay. So it's been a while.
I'm trying to think about the best way to maybe explain this for the viewers. The way it's set up...
Is my machine just like slow at this, or does this always take a little bit of time?
Yeah, when you make a new switch, it if your dependencies aren't cached for that version of the switch, which like once you like do a 5.1.0 project, it should like share the cache across projects unless there's like updates for the packages. But yeah, the first time you run opam and create a switch and stuff, it does take a long time. Leo, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the way opam works is it goes out, looks at where the source is, and then pulls it and compiles every single thing. Because I don't think the libraries get built or published built. I think Dune ends up building it yourself when you pull it in. Yeah, you can see on that line there, it's like core Dune build. So it goes through and builds all your dependencies. So then we have this other confusing bit where it's like eval this thing, which I guess for you coming from Python, that's probably not super out there.
Yeah.
So that's basically just going to load a bunch of environment variables in.
It's like this sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a trick that I learned that you can do. You can run opam init. Let me see what this command is. Opam init -- enable shellhook. And essentially what this will do is this will update your bash RC or your zrc and set it up such that every time you change directory into a project with a switch, it will auto do this for you.
Okay, that's literally what I was about to ask. Is this right with the dashes?
I believe so.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's actually go look at my dot files and see if things changed. Yeah, looks like that.
Sweet.
Okay. So that means if I, let's just make a new session and let's get rid of this one just because that way we'll have everything set up here. So now if I go out and then I go in, now I should have opam switch.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
So that's something that I wish they put in the docs too, because like the eval command is super confusing. And it's like, especially if you're coming from like Node and TypeScript and JavaScript, it's like, why do I have to do this every time I want to work on my project? What is this actually doing under the covers? So I definitely
that is one nice thing. If you don't know what it's doing, you can literally run it without the eval and be like, oh, that's what it's doing.
Yep. Okay, so we've set up our switch. So we basically have our node modules for OCaml now. We have our Dune project working. The next thing I like doing is doing an opam install of some dev dependencies. So what I normally
one quick question. If I look at switch, you were saying that like by default it installs the LTS version or whatever. So this is the one we just made. And then I think the other project I have do have 5.1, but it's not base compiler. Is that meaningful at all?
I actually don't know what the difference is. I don't know what base versus 5.1.0 is, to be honest. Leo, do you know what the difference between those two is? That would be why then opam switch create took a while, because it used it recompiled everything with OCaml base rather than 5.1. Maybe it's an alias. I'm not sure.
Okay, something
that'll
to know.
be. So I like running this next, and this is going to install a bunch of dev dependencies. So your LSP server, OCaml format, ODoc, and UTOP. At the moment, opam does not, or not opam, Dune and opam together do not have the concept of dev dependencies. We had that like depends thing, and you just throw a bunch of stuff in there. And it's not the convention at the moment to include things like the LSP and the format in the project dependencies. However, opam 2.2, which is in alpha releases or beta releases, it should soon be out. There is a feature that will let us have. We can mark dependencies with -- with dev setup, I think it is. And then it indicates that that's like a dev dependency and it's not going to get wrapped up into your binary and things like that. Okay. So that should be coming soon. Also, a nice improvement coming. But for the time being, it's kind of convention that you install these on your own. So I'll talk
So
through
actually,
what.
before I install them, shouldn't I just be putting these into the Doom project and then running Doom build? Is that a better way to do it?
So that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is that like it's not convention to put these dev dependencies in your depends
Oh, so we're just getting around
section.
that. Okay.
Yeah. So for chat, OCaml LSP server, this is what's going to give your code editor feedback, autocomplete, errors, things like that. OCaml format is going to work like prettier. UTOP is a interactive REPL, so we'll be able to launch like into a REPL by doing Dune UTOP, and it will automatically load all your dependencies into it, so you can play with your code that way. And then ODoc is a really, really cool feature of the OCaml ecosystem. If you write comments prefixed by like OCaml's comment syntax is like parentheses star and then your comment end. If you do parentheses star star, it is parsed as an ODoc comment. And if you document your code using ODoc comments and then run ODoc, it will completely generate like a ton of documentation for you, spit out a nice HTML web page, and that will get published to OPAM with your tool. So when people go on ocaml.org and look for dependencies, that will be published there.
Nice.
Yeah, that is one feature I really, really love. Okay, so this is installing.
Yeah, these all make sense to me. Yeah, it's funny because like in JavaScript land, I'm so used to installing a mazillion tools and wiring them up myself, and I'm just used to like every other language not needing to do that. And obviously, like I said, every language has one or two things. Like Python has virtual environments as well and things like that. So nothing too crazy, but yeah, just getting to know which ones those are.
Did you lose that output? Yeah. So this right here, this OCP indent thing, I hate that this is the output from installing one of these dependencies, because I don't use this at all to configure Vim, and like I don't think this is super helpful if you configure the LSP, because it's going to do. I think OCP indent is like a older way of doing like literally code formatting for OCaml. So I think it's pretty confusing that like this spits out by default, and then that coupled with there not being clear instructions for configuring Vim and NeoVim in the docs, it's like, well, like, okay, what is this thing? Why do I need to add this to my vimrc?
Yeah. It's tough because it's like you can document how to integrate with something like Vim or NeoVim, and then like tomorrow it might be. I guess NeoVim's pretty stable, but like if you're using like a distro like LazyVim or something, which is what I use, little bits and pieces. You can't just copy paste day to day. Like the concepts kind of stay the same, but
Yeah.
could kind of switch on you. So yeah, it's hard. It's like, how do you document that well? It's a tough problem.
I think my take on that would be like, I feel like we've standardized across like basically every editor on the LSP protocol that like
Yeah.
that should be the standard. And I think that OCP indent probably came from a time before LSP being super stable, would be my guess. But yeah, okay, so let's talk about our project setup now. We should be in a spot where you could get ready coding. So when you start a Dune project, we get this bin and lib directory. And as I already kind of made reference to earlier, this is super similar to Go's ecosystem and project setup, where Go has this thing called a command package, and then it has a packages directory. And the command directory is going to have your binaries, and your binaries are going to basically be like your entry points. And this is what Dune's going to look at as the first spot to build out your project. So like when you do Dune build right now, it's going to parse that Dune file. It's going to look at the rules in there. Yep. And if you do Dune exec, yep, just like that. Bada bing, bada boom, we get it out. So trying to think about the next place to look. Maybe open the Dune file in lib or bin.
Why is this? This is giving me everything. Give me one sec. Oh,
should
that's
be
why.
able to make a git
Touch.git
ignore.
ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not going to show me hidden files, so let me just open that up real quick. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I want build and opam, I think, right?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay.
Much better.
Up in here.
So this is going to be the entry point to your executable. And then we'll have this. So this is what's known as a executable stanza in Dune. So every library and every executable gets its own Dune file. So that's kind of confusing too at first. Like we have this Dune project, and then we have a Dune file in bin, and we have a Dune project in lib. Like, what's this all doing? But essentially, Dune, the build tool itself, just needs to know how to work with these different pieces. So executable is going to be the thing that tells Dune, like, hey, this is what we're actually going to build into a binary. These are the libraries we need. This is the name of the binary. So
is it like a search where, like, does Dune look at all the directories here, check if there's a Dune file? If there's not, it just doesn't do anything. And if it does, it like and process it. Is that kind of the mental
that
model?
At a high, yeah, that's a good mental model to have.
Okay.
The Dune docs are actually reasonably good, I found, if you spend time reading them. I normally will like jump into like the stanza section when I'm looking for stuff. Yeah, the stanza reference, that's basically stanza just reference, like the complete API docs. So this basically is just going to list like everything you can throw in a Dune file.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I ended up referencing...
I think that's worth calling out too, that like the format with the S expressions, like if you're not familiar with that coming from like JavaScript or whatever, you can think of this as like a serialized format, like a YAML file or JSON or whatever. What tripped me up was when I see S expressions, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm writing Lisp or something like that. So I'm like writing code, not data, which obviously the whole point of S expressions is that they're both, but I'm just so used to writing it as code and not data that I was like, oh, like what's this doing? And what is there another language in here that I'm not aware of? Is Dune using Lisp? Like it's just using S expressions for data, which took me just a bit of time to kind of wrap my head around.
Yeah, same with me. Like I had never really seen S expressions or Lisp until I started writing OCaml and like getting dropped into a Dune file. Super confusing. But it grows on you once you get it. So one thing that's interesting here is that library stanza. That is pointing to a Dune file library name in your lib directory. So that's how the binary knows to bring that in.
So this matches this here.
Yep. So that's how you can link your own libraries to the executable binary. So if we go like, let's just, I don't know, make some random module under lib.
Yeah, sure. So let's go here, and then let's make something like random.ml.
And then we can just write like any old function. Or a value, that's fine too. So if we save that and we do a Dune build, you can also run Dune build in watch mode. So if you do Dune B-W.
Oh, you can do B. Nice. Okay.
So this will run your app in watch mode, which is pretty nice.
Let's put that over here, actually. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let me close this one. Let me make a new one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm still in here. Yep. And we can do that here. There we go.
So we're built successfully, and if you go back to your main file now, you should be able to reference that by on Twitch, like replace just like hello world, and you should be able to do on Twitch, which will be your library name. It should be capital, sorry. It'll make libraries by default will have a module like entry point. Yeah, you should be able to do
double caps like that.
It should be lowercase, the second one. So it'll be, I don't know what title casing. And you should be able to do.
Yeah, I call this Cobra case. Yeah.
Cobra case. I like it.
Yeah, because
I'll
it's like
adopt that.
it's like snake case, but it's like it's got the snake coming out, you know. So
I'm adopting that.
okay.
So you should be able to do that, and then you want to reference your other module. So each file in a library is its own module. So you should be able to do on twitch.random. Yeah, that's a good call out, is that OCaml files are implicitly modules on their own. On Twitch blah.
Did I call it blah? I forget.
The file name should be.
Oh yeah. Got it. So I think this should be random now.
It should. I think you're gonna have to prefix it with the library. So it'll be.
Oh, okay.
Or does that work? No. Yeah.
Or do I have? I guess usually what I do is I do like open on Twitch, and then I can just reference it without the dot. Is usually what I do.
That should work. I'm actually confused why that's not working.
Expression is type int, but expression was expected to type string.
Oh, right.
I'm doing this. Yeah, there we go. So now I can do like Dune exec on Twitch.
Yeah,
there we go.
There we go. Nice. So that's.
So I could have written this as on Twitch explicitly here.
Right. Exactly.
That's what you were saying. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe another useful thing would be making a second library, just to show how that can work. So if we go back to the libs folder, and let's make another directory in there.
Another directory, okay. Within lib.
Yeah. So the way I generally set things up is I'll have libs, and then I'll put like a bunch of child libraries underneath that. Yeah, and then make a Dune file.
Okay. And then let's make other/Dune.
And then you can copy your other Dune file into that one.
From libdune, this one.
And let's call this, I guess, other.
And so I don't have to prefix this with lib or on Twitch or whatever. It already knows the nesting through the file structure.
Well, actually, this won't be prefixed by on Twitch. I mean, we could do it that way.
Oh,
you could wrap it if you wanted to. And we could get into that if you want. But if you go back to, just to demonstrate adding a second library, if we go back to bin now in your Dune file, and
Dune file. Yeah.
We're going to want to add our new library. And it was other. Yep. And then if we build, we should be able to do other.thing.
Okay. So in here, so we should be able to say something like let x equals other.thing, like that.
Well, thing should be a module. Remember, modules are going to be uppercase.
Yeah.
Do we have any code in other.thing?
Yeah, I don't think we do yet. Exactly. Other, so here, if I go to thing, let thing equals hello thing. Okay. And I have thing. Do I need to build again just to get that? I guess this is why I would want to have it be in watch mode, right?
Don't think you're saved yet.
Yep, correct.
So that's just saying it's unused. But that basically correctly referenced it. Another useful thing is you can ignore warnings like that. So if you want to ignore like unused variables, you can go to the top of your file and open up square brackets, and you'll do 3 ats in that. And then
spicy.
Yeah, OCaml.warning, and then you can just put you'll do -32.
And that's because this is 32.
Yep. So that basically just like ignore warning 32. I do this all the time.
Okay, and then I can chain more.
Yeah. Yep.
2 other warnings in here. And okay.
And there we go.
Cool.
So that's how I kind of do that.
I can't just scope that to this line. Can I put this like here or something?
You might be able to by doing like at. So like I believe this is using a preprocessor, and maybe one at.
Okay.
There's different ways of like, there's semantics between the symbols at the beginning of it and how it's like scoped to like either globally or a particular line.
Okay.
Hold on. Nightshade says I'm dropping frames. OBS tells me I've got a 0.1% frame drop, which is pretty good. I'm at 60 FPS. Seems like I'm okay. And then plus...
I mean, maybe it's just that NeoVim is so fast, you can't see everything, you know.
Facts. Cool. Well, so that's like at its core, kind of like how to use libraries and are executable and how to bring things in. Have you learned about MLI files yet?
Yeah. Okay, so let's make one of those. So let's go into like random. I've got blah, and then let's make, so I can make a interface file for this specific module. Do you guys call them modules or files, or what's the term?
I would call them modules. So every file is implicitly a module, but we also have module syntax where you can basically have child modules.
You can have multiple modules in a file. Oh,
Yep.
That's so nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, I could go into here and I could say something like, I forget the syntax here, but I basically want to say something like blah is a string.
Yeah, so in, what is the word for this? Signature. It's like the signature language, I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll do val. Val blah string. And let's see what this is mad about over here.
Yeah, it's not a string, it's an int. Yep, totally.
Boom. And so you can also do cool stuff like this. So let's in module.ml. Let's do module. Let's make a new child module in here.
Inside of
random.
lib?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Rather than in the MLI, let's go to the actual module file.
Oh, like, yeah, sorry. I keep thinking of modules as files because of JavaScript stuff. But yeah, okay, you want to just go into, oh my God, what did I do? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. So you want to go into this guy here. Yeah.
Yep, on the next line, let's do like module and then give it some name.
Okay.
And then we can say struct end. And then in there, we can say type T. So that's kind of like a really common convention, is to give like every module like what is the type of this thing we're working with. So here we can say it's like a type T int.
In JavaScript, I usually like, I know like this isn't good for perf, but for small projects, I sometimes will do something like import star as blah from blah. And then I'll say, I don't want to say like blah, blah, like say the same thing twice, like if this was the type within the module. So I've actually like defaulted to calling it .t. And this was a nice coincidence. And I was like, oh, like OCaml just like likes the convention I already use for TypeScript, which is nice.
Hell yeah. I've actually even started designing like my TypeScript like in a module approach where I will like, if I have some type, I'll do like const blah. And then I'll put a bunch of helpers on it. Like I'll put a constructor for an object on there, type utilities, and then I'll also name a type the same thing as that object I export. So like super similar to what you're saying. But that again is like one way that OCaml's influenced my TypeScript.
Yeah.
So let's do like add a print function, I guess, that is just going to do like print end line. And then have it take a T as a argument.
Oh, like, let's just call it like something else just to be clear. I guess it's like that, no?
Yeah, that works. I think you might have to wrap it in parens.
Yeah.
And then you can do int to string or string event. I forget which one it is. And we can print that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you use string event? I've tended to use like int.ofstring.
I think that comes from I actually just started using int of string. I've been using like string event, but I think like I've started using base and core a little bit more often from Jane Street than the standard library.
Actually, we want toString here, right? But yeah.
Um, and that library basically deprecates the string event and is like, hey, no, use int of string or
Yeah, that's
toString.
kind of the other thing too, is like just even learning uh like the basics of like I said, like asking, where the library in the bathroom is, like those sorts of things when you don't know that, like, should I be learning that without base? Or does everyone just like use base for serious projects anyways? Should I just start learning that right away because it seems a little bit more ergonomic? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like I don't know how much I should invest into that, like how well accepted that is. It's kind of like in TypeScript, or it's funny because when I say in TypeScript, what I mean is in modern JavaScript, and TypeScript is so ubiquitous that you would never tell someone like, oh, don't like learn too much TypeScript. That's not really the core of the language. Like that's kind of like now the norm.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's kind of the same thing with base or not, or where on that
So
gradient it is.
I have thoughts on this a little bit. I default to using the standard library. I actually don't mind the standard library all that much. But there are definitely pain points where base does improve things. But I think my high level advice would be like, don't bring in base or core until you really feel the pain points of the standard library,
Mm-hmm.
or at least understand why you would want it. And I think that just
Mm-hmm.
will come with time and using the standard library. And I wish the docs, I think the docs do guide you to use the actual standard library, but like a lot of times one of the top learning resources that gets advocated for is a book called Real World OCaml. And like right off the rip with that, it's like, we're going to use base. In fact, I think Real World OCaml was written by folks at Jane Street. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, I'm not sure. Yeah, you're on Minsky. Um, he's definitely a Jane Street person.
Yep.
Um, so like this often gets pointed to as like one of the best resources for learning. And again, it throws you right into base. And actually, I think there's like a thread on the OCaml Discuss forums like that just came up within like the past 2 days where it's like we should stop advocating for real world OCaml to be the number one resource. Um, it,
Interesting.
there's actually a book I'll share in chat right now. My favorite resource that I found for getting started was a course from, I think, Princeton. This has a YouTube series with it. I just shared the link in chat. I literally just like pulled this up on my phone and like in my free time rather than like scrolling Twitter or something. I just would like read a chapter of this. It's really well put together. The instructor has videos on all of it, super easy to follow. This is the resource I tend to recommend to people for learning OCaml.
Oh man, they talk about Curry Howard correspondence. That's so. This is like gets to like my deep love with OCaml. I want a language that's invented and not discovered. But anyways, yeah, it's cool that it goes in so much detail about that stuff. Or sorry, discovered, not invented is what I meant to say. But yeah, that's so cool. Okay, I guess the reason I immediately like I was also like on the. Let's just close VS Code. You deserve to be closed. Thank you. Okay. I think that the reason I like reached for base and then core really quickly. I mean, first of all, I immediately started gravitating towards core because I don't have a good like repertoire of knowledge of like what things are in base and not in core and vice versa. So I was like, just give me all of it. But the reason I reached for base so quickly was like, we were just talking about how cool that it is that you can make modules and like how you can access things via the namespace of the module and things like that. And yeah, like you run into something like this and you're like, how was I supposed to know that this was how I would do it? Whereas if you had like a module that you could like ask to do something, like that seems so much more. And again, I'm speaking with like 3 days of OCaml experience, but to me already this feels much more OCaml-y to me. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's not the right opinion to have, but
you're right, and you're actually using the standard library right now when you do int to string.
okay.
If you wanted to use
But
base, you'd have to open core at the top or open base.
So I guess I don't have the LSP set up, so I'm not sure if this is gonna. So is this valid right now?
It should be. So int is a part of the standard library, which I can link these docs right here. So there's the standard docs. That's just going to be an index of all the modules and or libraries we have available to us. For instance, you're using the int one down there.
Native int toString. Is that what I'm looking at?
Let's see here. I think you just
native
went
int
int.
is a separate thing, no?
Yeah, you probably just went int.
Okay, so let's go to like int 0 just to get something. Yeah, I think, okay, so there's a toString. Man, I forget what it was. Is it maybe of string that doesn't have a thing? Yeah, I think that's...
that is...
Because you can't say string of int, right? That's not a thing either?
It has that like top level utility in the standard library, like that one we were just talking about, I think.
Right. But it's not namespaced under here. It's not like of int or something.
No, probably not.
Yeah, like if... Okay, yeah, so I guess maybe that was the issue. Is I was trying to, convert not a string to an int, but an int to a string.
And like that, honestly, like if that's something that somebody feels that like is a big enough pain point and guides them to base, like that might be the thing that's just like, oh, maybe I should look into base. Yeah, that's just kind of my high level take. I don't think there's like any particularly right or wrong. I think the standard library is decent. I'd call out like things like regex stuff is not great in the standard library, and there's a package called RE, which this is probably a good time to call out. If you go to ocaml.org, right there, that search bar searches all of the OPAM packages. This would be like if you went to npm.com and search. So you could just do like RE there. And that first one, yeah, this is going to search all our stuff.
So yeah, this was actually another thing that I ran into. Is I was here on Learn, and I was in your first OCaml program, or maybe I was in Tour of OCaml, or I was in one of these pages, and I didn't know from here how to get to the standard lib docs, which, after a couple of days, I realized when I was searching something else that, oh, it's here. But when I saw this just say OCaml packages, I was like, well, that's not it. And so I didn't bother like clicking on there, and I couldn't find it.
Also a great call out. And I'm willing to bet that's going to change from this conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted something like here, or maybe two search bar. I don't know. I'm not a UI designer for a reason, so don't listen to me about how, but the what is what I want for sure.
Actually, if you look in chat right now, Sabine OCaml, she is the person that is leading the ocaml.org team and improving and rewriting stuff. She's amazing, very funny on Twitter. Everyone should follow her. Sabine, I'm gonna.
Awesome. I've seen Sabine on Twitter a couple times, so that's cool.
She's very good at the memes, as they say. Sabine, I'm going to. This whole thing's recorded. I'll clip this entire conversation, and I will send you a copy of this whole clip because I think a lot of good feedback came out of this that you and your team would appreciate. So I guess we can like start setting up like how we would do advent of code. So let's make another library and just call it AOC under libs.
Okay, so here just call it AOC. And let's just call it like day one or something.
Yep, that works perfect. We'll need a Dune file as well for it.
Dune. And then we'll probably just copy that like this. Yep. And then we can call this AOC.
And yeah, let's go into day one.
Let me just clean up the other
Sure.
crap that
Yeah.
we've got in here that we were messing around with, because yeah, let's go into lib. Let's just other random and random mli. Yep. Okay, cool. That seems better. Nice. Okay, that's what I want. Actually, and then I think that's all we had, right? So if I look at this, yeah, that looks right.
Sweet.
Cool.
That looks good to me. So if we go in here, I generally like setting up, like when I'm doing advent of code, I make like a module part 1 with a run function and then a module part 2 with the run function.
Mm-hmm. Let me just put this back to a working state for a second.
Yeah.
And that's actually another thing to call out is like this syntax here. So like there's like a entry point, like usually like in TypeScript or JavaScript or whatever, you could just write code and it would just execute, which you can also do here if I understand correctly. This is just like a convention to be like explicit.
I think you need a top level. So this is basically saying let unit equals print end line. Like we're assigning the value of our expression on the right to a unit, which that print end line returns a unit. So like if you returned like a string, you couldn't assign a string to a unit. In OCaml, unit is basically like the same thing as void. It is like the absence of a value.
So can I not do something like just like this?
I'm actually not sure. Let's try building and running.
And then let me bin Dune. We don't want other anymore. That's not a thing. And there we go.
It looks like it builds.
Actually, yeah. So when I have build running, do you have like another tab open where you're running exec, or do you like stop building and run exec, or how do you do
that? The projects I've been working on most recently don't lend themselves well to running my build. Well, I run the build in watch mode, but then I am like compiling JavaScript. So I'm actually like running like Vite to watch the output. I'm running like a dev server with Vite. But you can also run exec in watch mode, which I think is just Dune exec main-w, and then it should like rerun your actual executable every time you make changes.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, and do I need to say, I forget, what's the syntax here? Just main?
Yeah, -w. Or sorry, it's the public name. I'm sorry, it's on Twitch.
Yeah, okay. On Twitch.
Yep.
Oh,
there's your output.
Cool. Nice.
There we go.
Love it. Okay, so yeah, this works. Interesting. Yeah, so my understanding was that putting things into here was just kind of like a convention to like signal to our meat computers that this is like the thing I'm trying to do.
You're gonna have to do something like that as soon as you start like chaining expressions and things like that. Like, but yeah,
I can't do something like let x equals blah, or let's say like 1, 2, 3, and then let's like chain that into string event, and then let's chain that into print end line or something like that. And then so I guess, can I do this?
I guess we can.
Huh, okay.
So that works. So if you tried to do let x here, it's going to complain that x is never used.
Yep.
Again, we could put the OCaml warnings at the top, or this is where I'll normally like assign to like an underscore. Like when I'm like prototyping in like a main function, I'll just like ignore it, and then that, or I'll do like a main function. Like I do this a lot in Bun and TypeScript, or Node, I should say, where I write like a main function and then call it at the.
Yep.
So I'll call it main, and it'll take a unit as an argument.
Oh, because otherwise that would be a value. So this is how you signal it's a function with arguments. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
And then after this block, I would just come down and do like main unit. Sorry, you have to assign that to something. So like let underscore equals main.
Yeah, okay, and then I can do underscore so I don't get complaints.
Yep. So I'll do stuff like that.
Yeah, I do this all the time in JavaScript, especially with common.js, since you can't do top level await.
Yeah.
I'll do that all the time where I'll make this thing asynchronous and then call it because that's the only way to get awaits in here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel that. That's why I've started using like Bun basically for like all my like one-off scripts or side projects. We get top level await, like don't have to worry about that.
I mean, Node has it now. It's just you got to be on ESM, which, I mostly am, but there's a couple things. Yeah. Anyway,
we all mostly are. Cry. I do not envy like library and framework maintainers having to deal with CGS and ESM stuff. Like I had to deal with that a little bit when I was working at Formidable with Victory Charts when I was maintaining that, and it is just like the worst problem.
Yep, I got it right here. And it's like, hey, did you check this? Did you check that? Did you check this? It's like so many things can go wrong. And this is pretty cool though. There's this thing called Publint, and you can let's see, do I have anything in my history for Publint? No. But you can do something like at doc search, what was it? Doc search React. Yeah, let's do that one. Let's search that, and it'll tell you if it's like configured incorrectly for CJS and ESM stuff, which is really nice. So you can see if like it's
super
a dependency that's causing issues or if it's you that's causing issues. Yeah. Anyway,
I had no idea about that. Today I learned.
Yeah. It's I learned about it like last week. I mean, I knew there was this there's this thing called Are the Types Wrong, which is similar. And this you can also do something like at doc search / I feel bad picking on doc search. There's a lot of packages with this issue. It's not just them, but yeah, here it'll be like, hey, it's getting the ESM version. I mean, technically it's CJS, but it works. And this isn't as clear, I think, as the Publint one that I was showing. But
what is that actually checking for there? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, so if we look at Publint, this one. So it basically looks at things like, oh, you say you have a module that you're distributing here, but you're saying .js and not .mjs, and you're not using package exports, so like that might not be picked up in Node. So it walks you through it, but it basically looks at the package JSON and sees if module and exports are set correctly to point to files that actually exist and that are, look sort of correct. So I think it does a little bit of static analysis and does some stuff like that. Yeah, like here, it looks at this file in this library and it's like, oh, you're using like import, so you're using ESM, not requires, but this file is going to be interpreted as CJS unless you use the .mjs extension or whatever. So it's pretty thorough. It's pretty nice. I guess they've got more info. Yeah.
Nice. That is a tool I'm going to have to add to my repertoire.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that tools like that even have to exist, but yeah, it's nice that it does.
Every ecosystem has its pain points.
Yeah,
we've got Dune and OPAM being confusing. Node's got ESM and CJS.
No, Node's got a million things. You guys like OPAM and Dune, like it's kind of annoying. It's kind of a hurdle for beginners for day one. You get over it in like 2 days. It's like not that big of a deal.
And then once they're integrated too, it's gonna be so nice. And that's actually kind of what I'm trying to do with Create Melange app is I am trying to hide away basically creating the switch, setting up the Dune files, installing the dev dependencies, and then basically putting like an npm script interface in front of like all the OCaml stuff. So people coming from TypeScript and JavaScript can just like jump into writing ReasonML or OCaml and then use the tools they're familiar with to build it. Because right, like if you want to build your project, you can just say npm run build, and under the covers, webpack v esbuild, whatever it's configured to do, is gonna sync up with Dune, build it, watch, and it's just like you're using your normal npm interface or pnpm or whatever your preferred package manager is in JavaScript. Mm-hmm. I'm also planning on like adding a bunch of documentation to the template files. Like, so like when it spits out a Dune project, like I'm going to add a comment for every single line. Like here's what this is, here's why it's in this file, and here's like a link to the docs. That way, if somebody does get curious and want to look at like the internals of what Create Melange app is spitting out, like, oh, what's this Dune project file? Here's everything. Here's how it works. Here's how to get more help. So that's kind of my goal there. Cool. So let's make a run function, and we can just make that take a unit, I guess, or input. That works too.
No, that makes sense, because it's like I was previously doing this thing where I was like, this takes a string and returns a string and does stuff, but I think it's nicer to just be like, it does the whole thing, because then you can like encode the actual like file path in here.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually, so like the first thing we'll want to do is we want to read a file. All right, we're going to want to read our input.
This is the other reason I reach for base and core.
It does have a much nicer API for reading files. Yeah.
It's like read all or read lines or what. Oh, I forgot there's read lines. Yeah, okay.
So let me see how I did this in my Advent of Code thing. I wrote a utils for this. Where was this?
I think in a real world scenario where I wasn't doing this on stream with you, this is literally the point at which I would install. Is this in base or core? I don't even remember. But I would install one of those two and just like move on, because it feels to me like, especially in the spirit of like Advent of Code, like if I'm trying to get on that high score board, I'm not going to write a read lines utility. That's
actually what made me start using base more, was Advent of Code this year. Is like it has way better string parsing and string manipulation functions and libraries in it.
Yeah, it makes me sad, because I don't want to take on the complexity of like something like such a all-encompassing library just for no good reason, but I feel like this is a good reason.
Yeah, 100%. AOC, I use base in AOC. In fact, I use core to get some of the other data structures that come in. So someone called out in chat that core is a superset of base. So core has everything base does plus more.
Oh, I already put core in here, so I guess I can just do that. So I guess this is actually a good exercise. So let's say I wanted to add a dependency. So let's say I go into Dune project. Let's say I want to just use base.
Yep.
I would do it there.
Yep.
And I would save that. And I guess this is where I would want to be running Dune build, or does Dune exec do like a build implicitly?
So right now the way Dune works is when you make a change to your depends here, anytime you run any Dune command, it's going to look at that file first, and it will regenerate your opam file. So if you looked at your opam file right now, you would see that core is gone and that base is in there.
Yep.
Oh, maybe not.
No, wait. Not yet.
Let's try getting out of watch and run Dune build. That should update it.
Dune build.
That still might have done it.
Sure. Yeah, so now let's go back here. And let's go into opam.
Yeah, there we go.
Now it's got base. Okay. And so then what I would do is I would go to the place I want to use it. So the library I'm in is this one, and I'd go to the Dune file there.
And in
then
here,
I'd have to add library.
Yep, exactly.
Base. Like that. And,
so now
I can import it.
Yep, you should be able to go up top, open base.
Nice.
And now you have the base standard library.
Okay. Do I need an equals here or something? Is that what's...
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
So then you should be able to run this. You should be able to reference it from your main.ml, or you can do that. Yeah, whatever you want to do here.
I was thinking just like make a pass through real quick that just like prints out the input completely. I forget, because concat take a character? I think it does, right? And then we can say something like, what's the nice way of printing things here? I can do something like printf like that.
So like the popular library to do it is fmt, but you can do printf. That's a module. Well, actually, this might have just worked. Well, I don't know if you're getting feedback from your LSP here on diagnostics.
I'm not in here. Yeah, I haven't set up any NeoVim stuff, so yeah.
Okay, you can do printf, capital case, and then printf.
Oh, I see. Printf, capital case, dot printf.
Yep, like that, and that should potentially...
I feel like I've been using it just like... I think base might have it also, which is why I don't have to...
Oh, interesting. Maybe it does.
do
I'm
anything.
not as familiar with base. So then in
Okay,
here,
and then here, yeah.
you'll
say-
want to add your AOC library if you already haven't.
Yeah, AOC dot, and then day one dot run. Unbound module
Check
AOC.
your Dune file.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here I need AOC.
And it'll probably be capital A. Oh, maybe not.
Oh,
maybe
and
it is all capital.
lowercase OC.
I'm actually
Okay,
not sure
interesting.
if that's
Seems
how
like it
it'll
likes both. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then yeah, I guess you were right. This isn't. I need to be explicit here. I feel like I wasn't. Oh, maybe core has it, and that's why I'm used to it. Yeah.
Unbound value.
Okay. And now
So
this
that's
has
gonna-
to be a string. Right. Just read all. Is that the issue?
Oh,
Is this in core?
This is base.
So
let me
base has in-channel read lines? Okay.
Let's see here.
Yeah, this is where I wish I had my LSP set up, but yeah.
Do you use Mason? Or how
yeah.
do you configure your LSP? I can show you how mine's set up. So I don't have Mason auto install OCaml LSP. This tripped me up real hard when I was configuring NeoVim. Is I use Mason for most of my other LSPs, and Mason will essentially go out and install LSPs for you. But you actually want to use the LSP binary that's installed in your local switch, so it matches the compiler version.
That's just like like Rust has this issue too, where you want to use the toolchain version of the LSP that comes with your installation. You don't want to use like some other thing.
Yeah, let me grab a link to my lsp.files real quick.
So while I'm doing that, I think like, yeah, like, I don't know, like I do want to install, oh man, this is the wrong thing to open up. I wanted to be here. I do want to figure out how to set up NeoVim with OCaml. Do you think that's like a quick thing to do? Should we do that like some other time? What do you think?
Can you pull up your LSP configuration? We might be able to do it really quick, depending on how similar it is to my setup.
So I have like, I think I don't even have any LSP thingies like at all, because I just rely on, oh no, I guess I have Astro stuff set up. So yeah, the way I'd usually do it is I would say something like ocaml.lua, and then I would just like, since I'm using LazyVim, I can do this kind of piecemeal wherever I need it.
Can you pull up your Astro one?
Yeah. Astro. So I've got this. I guess that's just for LSP config. I don't know.
So we can use LSP config. So we can copy that same block. And and rather than Astro, we can reference it by...
Oh, I'm missing a no. What did I do here? Is this just not formatted for some reason? Yeah, maybe my Lua stuff is not set up correctly.
Ops, Astro, function, there's the end.
Oh, it's because I need the return at, yeah, okay. Return this, and then here. There we go.
Okay, now you should be able to return, you should be able to set up, replace Astro with OCaml LSP.
You mean like here? OCaml
Let's
LSP,
see here.
just one word?
Let me look at how I have this set up, because I don't use Lazy for this. Let's see here, name, setup, capabilities.
Yeah, man. This is the sort of thing where I like completely forget how to do it. Invest like a weekend, learn it, set it up, and then forget how to do it again like in a week.
One
Yeah,
second.
I've gotten such a bad habit because LazyVim just has all the LSP stuff set up for TypeScript and JavaScript and Rust out of the box, so I don't have to do anything. But yeah.
Let's try calling just setup with no args.
With OCaml LSP set up?
Yeah, yep.
That?
And then that might work. I don't know if we have to change that. I don't know what that setup astro key does. Nvim LSP config.
So I think that's just like the name that you want to have it be. Yeah, okay. Do something like that.
Actually, I do use lazy. I lied. I'm lying to you. I apologize. So there's my dot files. I have a config key rather than an ops key. If you scroll, so this isn't like a lazy plugin. Yeah, line 21. So I have a config, and then if you just called LSP, that same require LSP config dot setup.
So I think basically what I want is this, right? So I want config equals function. And then, yeah. No. Wait, is that what I wanted? Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Nice. Thank you, Copilot.
Functions describe the world.
Okay.
So that
like something
will hopefully work. And by default, OCaml LSP is going to look in your current directory at your local opam switch. Try to default to a LSP binary in that switch. Ooh. If not, it will go look.
Nice.
There we go.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you use tree sitter, but there's also an OCaml tree sitter grammar.
Yep.
I don't know where you add that or how you like doing tree sitter, but that is available.
Yeah, so I would do it like this again. So I like keeping it like kind of feature based rather than like tool based, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. And then I need something here.
Let me go.
So you have something in here. Let's see. Tree sitter.
My tree sitter stuff's going to be in another file.
Yeah, over here somewhere. OCaml interface, ensure installed.
In fact, you can probably from the command line do ts install sync and then OCaml. Obviously, that's just for a single session, but
I think I just want this, no? Like just with OCaml in
it. Should work.
Let's try it. Okay. And let's put end here, and then let's go in here and config setup. And I guess this is the issue, though, is like I've been letting tree sitter. Like if I call setup once and then at LazyVim is calling setup somewhere else, is this gonna override the other one, or is this gonna like constructively interfere and do both?
I don't know enough about LazyVim's loading to say for sure. I only just migrated to Lazy as a package manager like a month ago, and I had a lot of help in switching over my config. It's something I need to spend more time with.
Yeah. So. Yeah, okay. Modules, sync install. Okay, let's skip tree sitter for now. I can figure that out later.
Cool.
That's fine.
We at least got some autocomplete and diagnostics.
Yep. So yeah, so I've got in-channel read line is not a thing. Did you mean fold lines? Isn't this a thing? I thought read all was a thing also.
Let's go look at the base docs. Base OCaml.
I'll go look at core in the meantime. By the way, the docs for core and base are like really slow for me. Is that always a thing?
Oh, I'm actually not sure. Sabine, I don't know if Sabine's still in here, but or anyone that knows OCaml, is it like a known issue for large opam packages that this is slow?
Because yeah, if I click on like, let's go to, I don't even know where in channel is. I'm looking for something here, but let's say I do something like in channel. Okay, it's actually, that was fast. Maybe I was just having issues yesterday. I might have just had like 20,000 LSPs open while I was trying to set things up. So, oh, it's just lowercase? Is that the
There
issue?
is, so I remember what Jane Street did. Jane Street added a second library for dealing with IO called standard IO. So if you add to your Dune project, here, I remember running into this like a long time ago when I was also
This one.
first starting.
Standard IO.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Standard IO has a top level module called standard IO and then two child modules called in channel and out channel.
Ah, okay. So I'm wondering if that's the difference between base and core then, because I didn't have to install that for my AOC setup that I had already, but I just like went straight to core because I was like, yeah, didn't want to
It's
think
possible. Can you try
Yeah,
opening
yeah.
standard IO?
Yeah, sure.
You might
Open
already.
standard IO.
So that might come with base, or that might just be a remnant of installing core earlier. So it looks like it's
No, that's
finding
just
it.
Copilot.
Oh,
It's not the LSP though. Yeah.
so it must not come with base then. So if we go to your Dune project file, we can reinstall another dependency. We can add standard IO. And we can do a Dune build to regenerate our opam file.
Okay. And then I can go into lib Dune. Or is not even lib. I want to go AOC Dune.
Yep.
Let's say standard IO here.
Yep.
Then
You
here,
may
now
have
I
to
can say
run in.
something like,
You may have to do an opam install, depending if it's picked up or not. Oh, it looks like it is. So like the flow when you add a dependency will be like add it to Dune project, regenerate your opam file, run opam install. But it looks like it's already in there, and that probably came along from when we did core.
interesting. I wonder if my LSP is out of date in here. And now if I do that, I get that. If I do that, don't get that. Interesting. Okay. This expression has type string. Yep, that's totally fair. Let's just say something like string.split on that. Nice. And now day one.
We need to do day one, part one, because we have
Part
that child
one.
module.
Yep. That makes sense. So now I go to bin main, and I say part one. Day one, part one. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. Okay.
So we're not actually printing. So printf.sprintf is returning a string. So we could do that. I think printf should be able to print a standard out though. Let me go look up printf in base quick.
Oh, that works. I don't need to prefix it anymore. And now we just need to actually make the file. So now it's just failing that it can't find the file that I made up.
Yep. So it's going to read from the project root directory. Everything will be relative from there. So if we go make a data directory.
It's called this like one.sample.text. Something like that. Yeah, so now we've got this thing. And so now we can go to like AOC. No. Advent of code. There we go. No. Wow, that just like totally outed me of looking for solutions. Huh? Okay.
Poser.
It's so funny though, because I was looking for like OCaml solutions to see like, am I doing this in a super weird way? Like, how do people think about this? And okay, cool. So now it's actually
I think we
data
need
one.
to.
Oh yeah, I have the wrong thing here. I want sample. Boom. There it is.
Boom.
Okay, and I think I want a new line at the beginning here just to make it look a little prettier. Yeah, that looks better.
Nice.
Cool. Okay.
So there it is. That's like kind of the basics of getting a project set up, new libraries. There's actually a really cool repo that my coworker made for doing Advent of Code in OCaml that has a bunch of really nice automation that if you all want to check out, I'll paste this in chat. But he includes a CLI in the repo where it will go out and fetch your input. It will test your input, and then it can also submit your answers for you. Super cool.
This thing, right?
Tannenbaum? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that brings me back. My mom's family is part of them are German, so we used to sing O Tannenbaum like all the time for Christmas, which is like the Christmas tree song or whatever.
Nice.
So nice nostalgia there. Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
As
cool.
you can see, this is definitely influenced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap up at least coding and stuff. I guess, do you have like any questions, comments?
Yeah, let me go back to my list of, oh my God, what am I doing here? Yeah, there we go. To my OCaml notes and just see if there's any. Oh yeah, so if I'm like in the middle of some pipeline thing or just like some random place in OCaml, like obviously with functional style programming, you can't just like make a statement that prints and doesn't affect the computation, right? So like how would I do like a debugging statement here just to like, I want to see the value right here.
The way I do it, I would do another pipe right there. And then you can do fun for a function. So we'll do an anonymous function, lowercase.
Oh, okay. Fun.
And if you do like X and then just X there, basically an identity function, what you can do is you can print and then return the thing you're printing and it'll just continue through your pipeline. Does that make sense?
So I could do something like printf x and then x. Something like that?
Yep. So you want to put a semicolon at the end of that line. And I can explain this too.
At the end of this line?
Yep. So that basically says, hey, this statement is going to return a unit. So we don't have to do like let unit equals that. It's basically just syntactical sugar for doing that and doing in. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what this is
that makes
angry
sense.
about.
Well, yeah, we have a list of things, not a string, so it doesn't know how to print that.
I see. But yeah, that's how I would do that.
So I guess we could have done it. So let's do that here, maybe. Here we have a string. So we could do something like fun x. And then we can say print f x. Does this always need a... Do I need like a formatter thing here always? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's how I could do it.
Yep.
I was kind of expecting there to just be like I was expecting kind of like some function.
Oh, you could do it that way
print,
too.
But then just like return it for me.
You could, let's see, how could we do that? Now you would have to write like your own helper function.
Yeah, so I could say like let debug.
You could curry it, right?
Equals. Yeah.
You could be like debug string, and then the first argument would be the %s, and then you could just pass that.
I could say like format something like that, and then I could say like print f format string. Does this work? Can I say that?
Yep. And then you could say
something like that.
You want to label that with format.
Right. Yeah.
And that should work.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Okay. Love it.
Partial application and currying, one of my favorite parts
Yep.
of OCaml.
Honestly, the keyword partial application is huge. Because I've done like Haskell stuff before, and maybe there's a thing in Haskell. I'm also like a super noob at Haskell, so I didn't see that. But it was immediately clear to me that I could like, oh, I don't want to curry the first thing or the second thing. I want to curry the third thing. But then, like, and the keyword stuff has been so nice for that.
Yeah.
You don't have to like write like pass through functions like ever.
That's
Super
also one of the big benefits is that, especially like with the like list module and stuff, it designs it in such a way to kind of feel more like using labeled arguments and stuff. Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
think that's the other reason I reached for base is like, yeah, I was writing a lot of things like that, right? List.map x and then do the thing.
Yep.
Instead of just like, no, I shouldn't have to say x twice. I'm just making that explicit because I think this style of programming is like a little bit less familiar in TypeScript land. Like in TypeScript, I often see people like defining an arrow function that just calls the thing that it got passed to with some other function, like
Yep.
instead of just passing the function directly.
Yep.
Yeah. And then what did I mess up here? Nothing.
I think the LSP
This
is
is
just
just
upset.
Yeah, okay, so that's just my LSP not being all the way configured, which we know is a thing already, so that's fine. Yep, cool. Nice, man. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see, what are my other notes here? So we got debug printing.
I would also note to check out the FMT library. That is like at least my understanding is like the go-to for printing. FMT and pretty printers is like totally a thing. In fact, my day 2, which I can link in chat, does a lot of that. Advent of OCaml. Let me go to my lib. Problems, day 2. Link this in chat. This actually has something in it that I know you would appreciate. It has this library called Angstrom in it, which is a parser combinator library.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think you would really, really like Angstrom.
I was actually, I started doing a couple AOC problems and being like, okay, I guess I have to implement my own parser combinator abstraction. So, okay, that's cool.
Angstrom is super cool, and I don't know if Leo is still in chat, but he helped teach me the basics of it the one night I did this, and yeah, like it blew my mind. It's like one of the coolest things I've written in OCaml in a while.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to dig into that. Okay, I think we covered a lot of the stuff that I had here. Some of the stuff I think is a little bit out of scope for this conversation, would be too long. We talked about OCaml format stuff.
Yep.
We talked about wanting to see like an example repo alongside the playground. For testing, when you want to do like, I want this sort of experience with testing where I can just like have it continuously run and check me for things.
So it probably
is that easy to set up?
Yep. You should have a test directory in your root.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come in here and look at that Dune file, you would just want to add your library here. Let me go look at my actual syntax. It's been a while since I actually set up a new repo with the test directory. But there's a library. I think the most popular one and the one that I've used on all my projects, it's called alcotest. And it's going to feel like writing just tests. I mean, the API is a little kind of more OCaml-y, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, this is what I was looking for too. Like, I think this is the other place where I want like more prescriptive suggestions from the docs. Is like, I think it's nice to offer both, to say like, we've got like this really nice building blocks that don't make assumptions, and that's part of the core language. by the way, if you want to get started quickly, like maybe use this thing, right? And I haven't really
Yeah.
scoured the docs for testing, so maybe it's already like that. But
So
okay, that's cool.
then in your Dune test file, you'll have a name stanza. I normally use tests. I actually don't know what the difference between tests and tests is.
Oh, interesting.
So the way I've done this is maybe test just picks up everything in there and runs them. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. Either way, you can just look up the Dune test stanza, and it will be pretty straightforward in how you do it. So that should probably just pick up, hopefully, all of the files in that directory, and then you can just write your test using alkatest, and you can run, I think it's Dune build or Dune run test, I think it will do, and it will just
run test, yeah.
Yep, and you can run that in watch mode too. Dune run test.
Okay.
Yep, it's Dune run test.
Cool.
So that's how that would work.
That's another one to know. Okay. So we've got testing. So that's with alkatest. Yeah. Okay. So something I noticed was I was doing like the OCaml problems. 99 problem solving OCaml. This one. Which I thought was super cool. I guess this is the old one where it's like whatever. Anyways, I noticed a lot of times in here they had like this aux, and and I think for the accumulator it's often called like ACC for accumulator. I was wondering how much of that, because I'm learning, is like just a convention for tutorials versus like how often in the wild or in your own code do you use that versus naming something explicitly? Because like I can kind of get both arguments. Like some people would be like, let's make sure we name everything something meaningful. But like this is already within the length function and it's rec, so I know I don't really need a nice name for this. I know what it is already in context, right? So anyway, I was just curious of the conventions there.
Aux is not the accumulator in this case.
No, yeah. That's the recursive function. But I'm just saying aux and ac are both like conventions of how to name arguments, right?
Yep, I would say aux seems to be like the standard convention in OCaml for like internal recursive functions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So those are like not just like for teaching, but people actually use those conventions. Maps and sets are log n, which kind of caught me by surprise, and hash tables aren't. But like, that's not a huge deal. I think you kind of learn that, and then you're fine. And I think it's also like people kind of maybe over obsess about those things, and in small scales, sometimes the O of one thing is slower because you have to do all the hashing anyways. So
I think
that's not that big of a deal.
Maps use red black trees under the cover or something. I don't know for sure. But yeah, creating maps, you have to use a functor and pass in a module to that to get your thing out.
I tweeted about like I just want like a map that goes from an int pair to an int, and it was like kind of painful to do because I didn't want to have to define. Like my stance was like, actually let me open up the project that I was doing this in. So I had Pedro Cattori, advent of code. That's fine. And then let's go into, do I not have a status? Yeah, okay. And then I was doing day 3, I think. So I've started calling my recursive functions loop instead. I should probably call this aux, I guess.
Hey, I'm all for better naming.
No, I mean, I think to me, like, I'm a big fan of like, if you're in a namespace, the name shouldn't repeat what the namespace already says. So if I'm in parse line and I've got a recursive function, I already know what this is. This could be called X for all I care, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's like a personal opinion. What was I saying though? For int to int. Yeah, so I wanted to do something like this.
Yep.
A coordinate of 2 things, and then you make the type, and then you do the compare stuff. But I think this needed like I had to put this above core for some reason, which is unclear to me. And then
Oh,
as soon as
probably
I put
because
it
they
down
override.
here,
They probably have their own version of map that does things different. Oh, I saw a tweet about this. So if you move core back up, I think it's going to be map.make lowercase. It's a function rather than a functor. This is going to be confusing, and this is going to be like a definitely a topic for another video. But to get you fixed here, if you do map.make just as a function call,
and then
you see it.
as a function call. Okay.
You're gonna open parens, and you're gonna say module chord space between make and the parens. What is the function here? But basically, there's this thing called a first class module. And first class modules are like, OCaml basically has like kind of two languages in it. It has the module like language, and then it has your normal just like programming language. And they're kind of like in these two different spaces. First class modules let you bridge the world between them and basically treat modules as values rather than like namespaces or yeah. So this Jane Street took the approach where like rather than using this functor where you pass in a module, you pass a first class module. I'm failing to find the docs right now. You'll have to just look it up, but that is why you were running into errors there.
Yeah, I guess like that's definitely good to know why. I think the like specifically the thing I want is let's pretend we're not using core and we're just doing things like this.
Yep.
I guess this isn't so bad because you're just passing in like the built-in compare and it just happens to know how to do pairs of ints. Maybe.
Look at the function definition of that.
Oh, I don't have LSP stuff in here for some reason. Yeah, I think I haven't run Dune build and yeah, whatever. I can just open this up. Let me just open this up in VS Code to get the LSP stuff for today, and then I can figure it out in a second. So compare.
So it's taking in it must.
Because yeah, my understanding is like this is taking A to int. Interesting. So it just knows how to do these.
I'm
things.
guessing it does physical equality of the two items being compared. So like that would be like referential equality in JavaScript, and like if they're not the same reference in memory, it's probably that's probably what it's doing if I had to guess.
And the question is if I do something like let x equals 1, 2, and then I say let y equals 1, 2, I don't know enough about OCaml at the moment to know if non-primitive things like these two tuples would have the same representation. I would assume no. I would assume they'd point to two different, or would they? I guess they're immutable, so they could. Like,
we could open up utop and check if you haven't used utop yet.
But I guess that's the point. Is like, I don't want to think about that. So what I want is to just say, I have this thing, and I want non-referential comparison to happen, which is why I was like, oh, core does that, right? I can do like at deriving, what compare, and you need the other things too, like sex t and whatever it is. I forget all the incantations, and then you don't have to define this thing, right?
Yeah, it will generate that for you at compile time, like a macro.
Yeah. So I think that was what I was missing was like, I just want like to define a type and to get a composite type like chord from that, that so I can make maps out of it, and getting from A to B there, without having to define compare or understanding what compare was or understanding that, to do that I need preprocessors, and like that was a big hoop to jump through, I think, for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything to be done there, because like
Probably
Yeah,
just
this isn't so bad,
documentation.
but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe even just like confirming that, like, yeah, this is how you do it. Like, it's and I don't think it's that much boilerplate or anything. I'm not complaining about that. I just want to be told, like, am I doing it right? Like, is this how you'd recommend to do it? It just seems like there were a lot of decisions there, and I don't have confidence that I took them all correctly.
This is how I've made my maps
Yeah, yeah.
and sets, I guess.
Cool. I think that's pretty much it. These last two are, yeah, this is not a big deal. This is just like a function that I can make, whatever. And this is just something I want to learn about. I know in Rust there's a way to do like, you can do something like function blah. Man, I forget Rust syntax now. I'm just going to make it up, whatever. We're in OCaml. Let's just pretend it's a function. You could do something like that, and you could start doing computations, right?
Yep.
And let's say that these all are like, excuse me. If these are all like returning options or results or some other type of monad or something, you could do something like that to like exit early.
Yep.
And I think there's like, from what I understand, preprocessor things you can do in OCaml. Like you can have special let things that do that.
That's actually not even a preprocessor feature, and Base might even have like a let package under result and option. You can define your own let operators. So if you just like go up a line, this could be a whole talk on its own. Yeah, if you do let star or whatever you want equals option.bind, that basically would be like, that's equivocally saying that if I do let percent my variable equals some expression that returns an option, if it returns the sum variant, I want to unbox it and assign it to my variable. Or if it returns the none variant, I want to immediately return from my scope with the none value.
Okay, and yeah, option.bind is like, bind is the monadic thing for that, for option. That makes sense. Yeah, and then I'm guessing result is similar, where it would unbox the success and then return early the fail. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. One thing I do a lot in my projects is I'll make like a common library, and then I'll have a syntax module in there. I can show you an example of how I do this.
Yeah, I was doing that for like this thing. I wanted this thing to exist.
Yep.
So I just like invented it. Yeah, because I wanted to be able to just define a function without the input, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's actually sick. I'm probably gonna add that to my, because I always want compose too, and I end up just like writing it by hand.
I think from what I was reading though, if you're doing this in userland, the compiler can't optimize this as well as it normally can with pipes. So, don't use this in something critical that needs performance, but
pick your poison.
For me, it kind of reads nicer.
So I just dropped in chat, I pretty much copy this file to like all my projects.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
And I know I don't know if. Yep, go ahead.
Interesting. So you have this operator. So what if I have a pipeline of things like this, and let's say that each of these things was returning an option or something, and so I want to use my fancy bind operator, which you defined like that. Do I replace my pipes with those?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Perfect.
The other thing I would call out is LWT, if you haven't worked with it yet. That's like, it stands for lightweight thread. It's like one of our async libraries. It works exactly like a promise. So if you see like a type that's LWT.t, you can read that as promise. In fact,
describe the world.
OCaml recently 5.0 came out with multi-core. So there's a bunch of new like async stuff coming out right now. But LWT is like the go-to.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I'm trying to think if there's... I think that's basically all the stuff I was wanting to get my mental model around. So, yeah.
Sweet,
Feeling
man.
pretty good about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like, to me, this, like, writing this code just felt so good. Like, it just feels like there's no incidental complexity. It's all inherent to the problem, you know, which is like so nice.
I found with OCaml that, like, one, it's fun to write. Like, when you get like a pipeline like this just working, it's like, it just feels so good. And also, I feel like compared to using TypeScript as my reference point, I feel like the language of OCaml itself tends to guide me to simpler solutions and abstractions than TypeScript does. Like, just by the inherent language features and constraints imposed by the language, I feel like it just, like, if you try to do something too complex or something that's not idiomatic, like, you're gonna bump into pain points and be like, this is kind of hard to do. I should rethink about what I'm doing, and if I can just do something simpler. Or like it will encourage you to break problems down into smaller and smaller functions.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience. Like, my whole thing, that, like, part of my ethos is like, a good programming language should basically capture your mental model one-to-one with like no extra fluff, right?
Yep.
And if I'm like, I've had this experience where even on like my third day of OCaml, I was writing the day 3 solution, and I was like, man, why do I have to iterate over this manually and keep track of all the, you know, the indices myself? And like, oh, you know, I'm parsing something, so some of that is like, you know, par for the course. But yeah, like, I kind of felt like gross about it. And then I like put it down for like an hour or two, and I came back and I was like, oh, I should be using fold I instead of map and keeping like a reference. And then that way I don't have to keep track of the state myself. And it's like, yeah, it almost feels like when you feel like you're fighting the language, it's a good signal that your solution is like overly complex, right?
Yep.
Whereas in
100%.
other languages, sometimes, like if you're in Java and your solution's overly complex, like, good job, you did it. You know, it's like.
I tweeted the other day. Yeah. I genuinely think the Gang of Four book has probably cost companies more money than like null or undefined values.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time that like enterprise shops have spent on designing these like super complex UML diagrammed things after that book is probably a net loss for the world.
Yeah. It's like, if I'm explaining to a little kid how a swing works, and I'm like, there's ropes and there's gravity and there's like a seat, and those are the words I would use, and then my code should like reflect that. If I'm starting to create like a rope creator factory abstract bean class, like, you know, you've gone wrong. Like, you would never say those words when explaining what a swing is in normal life. So why are you doing it in your code, right?
And that's like part of the thing. Like, I know you watched my conference talk and a bunch of chat did. It's like TypeScript's type system and Java's type system, like, it's super verbose and hard to capture like that one-to-one, like your mental domain model to the code type. And OCaml and Reason just like let you capture that without like a ton of boilerplate and ceremony. And like that's really hard to do in TypeScript, especially when like you get into the world of generics and trying to model relationships between generics and constraints at the type level. Like, it's just really hard to do, and it just like you get that for free with like little to no effort in OCaml.
I forgot how good it was to be in like a Hindley-Miller typed language and just everything just works. It's like, oh man, it's so
and it's
good.
that's such a hard feeling to teach or explain without feeling it. Like, if you've never worked with a Hindley-Miller type system, it's so hard to like explain why that feels good and how it feels good. I like, that's why like I kind of want to turn my talk I did into like a conference workshop, because then at least I can like have an audience like step through all the examples and like try to walk them towards that like light bulb moment.
One other thing that maybe this is kind of one of the last things that I want to talk about, but For something like this, for example, I'm parsing some digits, and I have some condition that I want to check. And I could model this thing as a big match statement, but I'd have a lot of cases that are like, underscore when some condition, and then it just feels like I'm just doing if statements. So like, why not just do if statements directly?
Yep.
So I wasn't sure exactly like what to do there. But then the thing that I don't like about this is it nests this further computation like in a level because of the else. And I kind of wish like if I'm doing an early return, this should be like that, and my happy path shouldn't get like indented, right? So I can read like, oh, precondition, let's keep going. The precondition's like checked already, right? And I kind of like this flow better. So I've been like manually formatting my OCaml for a little bit just while I'm getting to grips with the language. But yeah, that's just a complaint in general. I just think like I want to keep,
This is
like I said, my
probably
indentation to the left.
something you could configure with OCaml format. I know I don't use change. I use the default profile, and then I set like a couple things. Like I like putting 2 semicolons at the bottom of an expression block, which comes with the Jane Street thing. Yeah, so it would do that, and then it would tab over to the left, and that like just lets me see at a quick glance like where my block is, where it ends. And then I think I have some tabbing changes with maybe nested match statements, which is similar to what you're saying. But yeah, that's going to be like the same deal with like configuring prettier to your preference or your team's preferences.
Yeah. I guess my, so ignoring ternaries, because I have a whole, I tweeted about this the other day with ternaries, but I should write a whole blog post about that. But ignoring ternaries in JavaScript and how prettier formats them, the rest of how prettier formats things I can like get on board with for the most part. And I think that's kind of like the guiding principle there, again, to me, is I want to write my business logic in a way where like my preconditions and stuff like that don't get in the way of like the happy path or like the core logic or like the complex part, right? And that's why I'm like so keen on like keeping this stuff indented to the left, so I don't have to like
That's a great point.
I mean, head all the way. But
that would almost be like worthwhile, like starting a discussion on the OCaml forums or like the OCaml like format repo for the or the default profile, because I think that's a really good point.
Now, who knows? Maybe since I don't have this explicit scope here, it is harder to track in a harder, not as trivial case as this example, and that's why they do it, right? But like, I don't know. I feel like something could be done there. So yeah, I can bring it up.
Sweet. Well, I've got to bounce here shortly, but thank you so much for coming on. This was fun. Definitely want to get into doing some like Melange, ReasonML remix content. So I'll probably try to plan some of that out over the holidays, and maybe we can collab on some more stuff, man. This was fun.
Yeah. If I get excuse on helping out with OCaml stuff, I'll hop on for sure. If I can be like, I'm doing OCaml stuff for work, guys, like that's the dream, right? So
hell yeah. Sweet, man. Well, you want to pitch anything else before we wrap up here?
I don't know. Not really. Like I said, I work on Remix. If you're into web apps, the best thing I can say about Remix is like go do the quick start. Like anything I say is not going to be as good as at selling it as that. And when I say selling it, it's completely free. We don't offer hosting or anything. So we literally don't get any money if you use Remix. So we just think it's good. So the only other thing is, you can find me on Twitter, like I said, Pedro Cattori. And there's a link to my blog there as well, which I haven't updated in forever. But there's a couple things that are actually relevant to what we talked about, like the ternary stuff. I've got a post about that. Actually, like I've got a post about redesigning function notation in JavaScript and why I prefer arrow functions. And OCaml has a lot of those things. Like functions are just values, and so you just use let to define them because they're just other values, right? And like I like that parity with other values. Whereas if you use like the function keyword in JavaScript, it gives you this affordance that functions are different and you might not be able to use them the same as values, which I don't enjoy. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that I think are pretty relevant to OCaml that I think about a lot. Like I said, compilers, language design is like near and dear to my heart. So yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, definitely check out Angstrom because I think you're going to really dig that based on your background.
Yeah, for sure. Will do.
Sweet, man. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, chat, for sticking around. And I will catch y'all later.
See ya.